There we go. Okay, we're in action team. So, welcome. If I haven't met you before, my name is Jake, and I'm going to be running you through our awesome workshop today. So, it's great to have everyone online. We have a few of our clients from Australia, we have a few of our clients from India, and no doubt lots of people watching this video from all over the place, which is very cool. Okay, so we're going to get stuck straight into it, guys. And really simply today, as you know, we are going to be talking about my button working. We're going to be, oh, I think I skipped a slide. Hang on. I know I didn't. Never mind. Okay. All right. Okay, before we start, team, I want to make sure everyone has a pad and a pen. Okay. Because if we're going to sit here for the next 30 40 minutes or whatever, and listen to a bunch of stuff, it's very important that we actually remember the things that we listen to and put them into action, because if we don't do that, we're all wasting our time. And if you guys don't change your behaviors and do something as a result of this workshop, then I consider that a failure on my part. So to help you remember, and we're going to do a couple of little activities. I'm going to ask you some questions as we go. You'll need to write down your answers to get the most value out of it. So if you haven't got a pen and a paper, quickly go and grab one. And that's very important. Even if you're planning on typing notes, don't do that. Pen and paper. There's plenty of studies that back up that helps your memory. Okay? So the next thing before we start is this little thing called the line. Okay, so before we do anything, we just have to remind ourselves. We have a line of choice. Below the line, we have blame, excuses, denial. Above the line, we have ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Okay, so this not only goes for today's workshop, but just in general, super important, okay, that we all decide and make the decision every day to live above the line and take ownership of what's going on in our life. Hands up if that's fair enough and you're happy to play above the line today. Awesome. If you don't put your hand up, you're in big trouble. Okay, beautiful. Alrighty, so as you know, team, today we're talking about how to reduce belly fat. Who's interested in that topic? Hands up if you're interested in how to reduce belly fat. Awesome. You're at the right place. Okay, we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to be talking about hormones, okay, because they're very important. And if you're holding belly fat in particular in higher proportion to other areas of your body, then that means we have a hormonal imbalance, okay? That's why that's occurring. We're going to talk about how to reduce the stresses on your body to get your hormones back to where they should be so that you can fix that problem. And then we're going to also just go over some fat loss basics as well. Okay, so we're going to go to the specifics of belly fat. We're also going to go through the basics, just general fat loss principles. Okay, because sometimes we need a reminder. And who thinks they know some things already that they just maybe forgot about and haven't been doing lately? You know, like maybe you should not eat certain things, but you do anyway. So we need to go through those basics and revise. And then we're going to have a question and answer, guys. So if you have any questions along the way, just grab your pen and write them down. Okay, that's going to be the easiest way. If you have an urgent question that you want or you think needs to be answered straight away and that might help everybody, there's actually a little button on your screen that will look like a little hand. Okay, so rather than physically putting your hand up, because I can't see everybody's faces on the screen, click the little button, the little hand button, and that tells me someone's put their hand up. Okay? All right, so team, just making sure everyone's still there. Fantastic. Alrighty, so let's get started. Before we start, I want to test and make sure everyone knows where their hand button is. So please find your hand button on your screen and click it. If you can click the little hand, there we go, perfect. And then after you click it, just click it again and that'll put your hand down. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, make sure you put your hand down, otherwise I think you have a question. All right. Awesome, guys. Okay, let's get motoring. All right. Okay, so hormones. The hormone, all right, so we have a bunch of hormones in our body and we all know that, and they all play a vital role. Now, the problem is when the hormones get out of whack, okay? Or in other words, we get too many of some, not enough of others, etc. Now, if you have excess body fat, and what I mean by excess is, it means if you're storing body fat around your tummy, more so than other areas. So let's say your legs are fairly lean, your arms are lean, etc., but you're just feeling like the tummy fat's not going away. Then that tells us that you have elevated cortisol levels, okay? So we're going to go into depth today about what are the things that trigger cortisol to go into our bloodstream, okay? It's a very important hormone. It's basically a stress hormone, okay? And most people, when we say stress, they think about mental straight away, but there's actually many, many things that can stress your body that we need to be aware of, okay? And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So we're going to follow a really simple two-step process. Step one, we're going to identify the stressors, okay? We're going to go through a whole list of things, and you're going to find the 2 or 3 things that you think are applicable to you, all right? So if I was coaching you one-on-one, I would ask you all these questions, okay? And we would figure out what are the things that are probably the cause. And then basically it's a bit of science being that it's an experiment, okay? So we're going to think, all right, well, I eat a lot of that thing and that's a potential stressor. So maybe I'm going to attempt to cut that thing out and see how my body reacts, okay? So step one, identify the stressors. Step two, eliminate the stressors. So we're going to have an action plan at the end of this workshop. You're going to go away and do those things, okay? And then you can see the results over the next weeks and months, all right? And I just remembered, I'm going to try and talk a bit slower than usual because I always get in trouble from our Indian clients from talking too fast, because I know that my accent can be a little bit challenging to follow. But hands up if you can understand me okay. Yeah, okay, fantastic. If at any stage you can't understand me, just remember to try and listen a bit faster, okay? And we'll be good. Alrighty, we can get someone to translate later. Okay, the first one is alcohol, team. Alcohol stresses the body. Who would have known, hey? All this time we thought it was so good for us. So if you're a regular alcohol drinker, let's say you drink 1 or 2 of an evening, you know, that is going to accumulate over time, okay? And by the way, changing one of these things might have a large impact, but more than likely it's going to have a small impact, okay? What has a large impact is accumulation, okay? So if there's 4 or 5 of these things that you're doing all the time, that's going to accumulate to make a big difference, okay? So take notes of each one of these things as we bring it up, and then we're going to identify which are the top few things that we need to address in our own lives, because they're going to be different for everybody. So if you never drink alcohol, no problem for you. But if you're a regular drinker, this can be something to look at, okay? Well, it is something to look at. Caffeine, probably even a lot more common than alcohol. If you're a big coffee drinker, or if you drink a lot of chai, you're a tea drinker, okay? Often tea is just as much caffeine as coffee, but we associate tea with being healthier, so we can sometimes overconsume it. And who knows what's the other problem if you're a bit of a chai drinker? If you drink a lot of chais in a day, apart from caffeine, what's the other issue with chai? Starts with S and ends in uga. That is correct.
Sugar.
Sugar. Okay, absolutely. Okay, so now caffeine's an interesting one, and like everything, it's individual. So I often get asked, how many coffees a day is okay? Now the answer is for who? Okay, because some people might be able to drink 3 or 4 cups a day and be fine. Okay, and not really have a problem. Other people will have 2 cups a day and they'll be over consuming for them because their body cannot tolerate caffeine very well. All right. Now, the other problem with, or two more things I want to mention about caffeine. One, never on an empty stomach. Okay. So, what caffeine actually does is stimulates the body to produce cortisol. Cortisol, being a stress hormone, makes us alert. Okay, so in nature, we need to release cortisol because we're in danger. Okay, let's say our village was being attacked many years ago. Right, we want a rush of cortisol so we could be awake because we don't want to be half asleep, trying to fight off the people raiding our village. Does that make sense? So caffeine, it goes into our system and it helps our body produce cortisol. Now, on an empty stomach, that will happen really fast and it will produce a lot more. So we never have coffee on an empty stomach. And what do most people do the first thing they wake up? Have coffee, right? On an empty stomach. So, golden rule with morning coffee is after you eat. Okay, so have your brekkie, then have your coffee. All right, if you want to be optimal. And that will be much better. And the second golden rule when it comes to coffee, especially when you're having multiple a day, is coffee and water. That's how you drink coffee. Okay, not with 6 liters of milk and 14 teaspoons of sugar. All right, a lot of people have like a white coffee with 1 sugar, for example. And let's just say roughly the milk that you put in the coffee equates to another teaspoon of sugar. That's 2 teaspoons. Let's assume you have 2 a day. That's 4 a day. 4 times 7 is 28. That's in a week, right? 28 teaspoons of sugar. 4 times 365 is about 1,500 teaspoons of sugar in 1 year. So is it going to make a big difference to your life in 1 day? No. In 1 year? Absolutely. Okay. Sugar is another thing that stresses our body. So if we're having the caffeine and the sugar, you're getting a double whammy. Does this make sense? Cool. All right, so that's coffee. All right, so if you're a big coffee drinker, and not just coffee, sorry, but tea as well, that could be something you need to look at. All right, and so easy to get out of hand with that. Sugar we just discussed, but literally everybody sitting here knows that sugar is something we should be avoiding. Okay, for our health, for our fat loss, but also because our bodies aren't designed to deal with a bunch of sugar. So what happens when we put sugar into our bloodstream is we get a spike of insulin, okay? And that happens over and over again. And insulin is fine to do its job, but when insulin is high chronically, in other words, it's high all the time, that causes a lot of stress to our body. And then in response to that, our body produces cortisol. Now, cortisol is a stress hormone, and when you are stressed, what kind of food do you crave? Do you crave broccoli and steak? Or do you crave chips and biscuits and ice cream, right? So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. So sugar will lead us to like this insulin cortisol cycle that we want to avoid, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, I've never had any client come in and say, oh, I was feeling so stressed last night, so I ate 3 kilos of vegetables, right? Hasn't happened in 11 years. Okay, so probably you've got 1 or 2 things on your list already that are for you. Poor quality food, okay? What do I mean by poor quality food? Mostly if it comes in a packet, right? If it's processed, it's going to be of poor quality. Okay. pretty simple. The meats that we buy as well, very important. So, you know, it's, in my opinion, is absolutely worth paying the extra little bit to get the good quality food. Okay, I know it's challenging sometimes, but wherever you can, you want to make sure, like the difference between, say, a good grass-fed meat or a free-range egg versus a caged egg are quite dramatic. Okay, they are very, very different. Quality food, quality supplements when you're supplementing as well. Okay, so for example, when you're driving your car around, you want to put the proper fuel in it. If you put diesel into a car that needs unleaded, it's not going to go very well. It's going to break down pretty soon. Okay, with people, it actually is less noticeable because it takes longer for us to essentially break down. Okay, but quality food. So poor quality food is going to stress your body. Really simple. This one, a lot of people don't even ever think about. When we say stress and stress hormones, food intolerances is really, really big. Okay, now the number one food intolerance in Western society, so you guys from Australia, is gluten. Okay, gluten comes from wheat products, barley products, and rye, but mostly in the West here, it's just going to be wheat is the problem. You guys in India are less likely to be gluten intolerant, okay, because your gene pool has developed over many, many thousands of years eating those foods. Whereas if you're Caucasian, light-skinned, European descent, you're much more likely to have developed genetically on a more meat-based diet, okay, higher protein, higher fats. So there are genetic differences in people as to what foods work for us and what foods don't. So the problem with food intolerances is most of the time we don't even know we have them until they become severe, okay? But 70% of people of European descent have sensitivity to gluten. That means most people. Now, our whole diet is based around foods that have gluten in it, right? And it's not until we become celiac, which means like many, many years of eating the food that we shouldn't have been eating, that we actually realize it. So that's a problem. So basically, if you should be essentially avoiding gluten if you're of European descent. It's a good idea to at least try it for a month and see how you feel. If you feel good, that's the best test there is. Say, all right, that's probably a good idea to steer away from that. Other common ones are lactose. Okay, lactose is very common. Corn's actually very common as well. Eggs can be common, especially if you overeat eggs and eat eggs all the time. But there's many, many different ones. There's like even capsicums and tomatoes, very common food intolerances also. So the best thing to do there is just to see how you feel after a meal. Okay, so in the couple of hours after a meal, just take note of how you feel. Are you feeling bloated and feeling sluggish? Need to have a sleep after eating? There could be something that you need to look at there. And if you're concerned, then you go and see a doctor who specializes in those things and you can actually get tested. Okay, but the gluten tests are typically not very good. They only pick up when you're really, really severe. But food intolerances is really important. Okay, lack of sleep. All right, so sleep is when our body resets its hormones, okay? It's when our body metabolizes hormones. So your cortisol should drop significantly when you're in REM sleep, okay? And then it spikes back up when you wake up because that's what makes us alert, okay? Now, this is a common thing across the board, lack of sleep, of course, and it's going to happen from time to time, but it's very important that we get a good sleep. What I've noticed since being back and forward to India about 16 or 17 times over the last couple of years, is that Indian culture, you guys tend to stay up late. Okay, you tend to stay up late and you still wake up pretty early. And what I found in just talking to a lot of different clients and team and trainers that we've trained over there is that it's very, very common for people not to be getting enough good sleep. So that's something you need to look at, all right, if that's you. Now, how much sleep should you have? Depends on who you are. Okay, I go to bed at 9 o'clock and ideally I wake up at 6:30. That's 9.5 hours, which is too much for most people, but for me, if I don't get a good sleep, I'm like useless all day. Okay, so it depends on the individual 100%. Also depends on your training, what kind of training that you're doing. So if you're doing our style of training, you're going to be pretty good. You probably won't need that much, but if you're doing like a powerlifting style training where your nervous system is getting really zapped, then you're going to need more sleep. All right, if you're an elite athlete, you're going to need more sleep than that. LeBron James, right? He's a basketball player. He sleeps up to 12 hours a day. All right, because his body needs that rest. We don't need, as mere mortals, we won't need that much sleep. But my point is, it varies for everybody. But typically, there's not many people that function well on less than 7. How do you know if you're getting enough sleep? How do you feel when you wake up? All right, not the minute you wake up, but within the first 20, 30 minutes of waking up, are you feeling full of energy or are you really tired? We won't go into the details of what you need to do for a better night's sleep unless that's someone's question at the end, because we've got to keep moving. That's a whole nother topic, okay? But sleep is very critical. There's a guy in fitness, he's a pro bodybuilder and he's a really knowledgeable guy called Stan Efferding, right? And he says sleep is the best drug you can do for weight loss and muscle gain. Okay, I think I've done videos on sleep in the past if you want more info on that. Actually, I believe there's actually a video on sleep in our membership portal you can check out. Mental stress. Okay, so this is the kind of main one that most people think of when we say stress and, concerned about stress hormones. So mental stress means like work, family, your husband or your wife, right? It's a common one. That one's ringing true for a few people. Yeah. Don't laugh too loud if they're in the room with you. Okay. So with mental stress, you've got a couple of options, right? You can either eliminate it, right? You can have your husband or wife taken out or whatever. Yeah. Or you can find better ways to deal with it. Okay. So, when we're talking about fat loss, most people wouldn't immediately think about things like meditation. All right. But meditation is a great way to reduce your stress, therefore reduce your cortisol. And the fundamental of this is, guys, when your cortisol is high, your body is not going to be able to burn fat efficiently. Okay. And when your cortisol is high, it stores body fat around your tummy. Okay. So just to recap that, this is why everything that we're doing is aimed at how can we reduce that cortisol. And if you reduce cortisol, not only are you going to burn more fat and more fat from your tummy, you're just going to feel better. Okay. When you feel agitated and stressed out, that's because cortisol is high. Okay. So it is very important for a multitude of reasons. Okay. So mental stress, let's cover a couple of things. We've got meditation, and that doesn't have to be like monk state for 6 days or anything like that. It could just be a 5-minute relax. I use this thing called a Shakti mat. It's just like a mat with these little spikes in it. And you lie it on your bed and you lie on it, and it helps you relax. And you listen to some calming music. If you do that for 5 or 10 minutes, that can be a great little ritual to reduce your mental stress. For you, meditation might be going for a walk. all right? Or, whatever, listening to something that helps calm you. There's all sorts of good ones on YouTube these days. Gratitude journal is another great one, okay? You cannot be grateful and stressed out at the same time. It's physically impossible, all right? Try to be grateful and stressed out at the same time. You'll have fun, all right? So literally, if you have a little list, and I have a little book here that I write stuff down in, and one of the pages on there is just, what am I grateful for? So if I'm feeling stressed, I can just go and read that, and all of a sudden I'm feeling good. Who's ever gone from feeling good to feeling stressed really quickly? From good to stressed quickly. Yeah. And it goes the other way as well. You can go from feeling stressed to good really quickly. Okay, so you have to find little routines that help you manage your mental stress. That's the point of that. It could be, what is stressing you out? How can you handle that better? Maybe you have a work colleague that's stressing you out, and you need to actually just go and address that and have a conversation with them instead of avoiding it every day and being stressed out every day. Not saying no. Hands up if you're guilty of saying yes to everybody. Have you ever done that? And then you end up getting stressed because you're doing everything for everybody else. Right? You have no time to do your routines. You have no time to sleep. You have no time to prepare your meals and look after yourself. Okay, so learn to say no. And overtraining, not very common, mind you. More common in elite athletes, overtraining, and then they get their bodies get really stressed. They end up getting injured and they stop improving. Okay, but if you're training once a day, doing our workouts and having one day a week off with complete rest or a light walk or something, you're going to be fine. Overtraining is not an issue. Okay, some people like to think they're overtraining when they're definitely not. Okay, but that's also relative to how you're sleeping, because if you're sleeping terribly and trying to train intensely 3 times a week, that might be overtraining for you at that point in time. Or if you're going through a divorce or something catastrophic in your life and you're totally stressed, training hard on top of that is not always a good thing. Sometimes you've got to back that off. Okay. All right. I think we're getting close to the end of our list. This is a good one. And all these things are related. If you have a nutritional deficiency, okay, that will lead to chronic inflammation. That means basically everything in your body's angry. If you've got sore joints and things like that, it often comes from inflammation. Okay. And poor gut health will lead to inflammation. So if you cannot absorb the foods that you eat because your gut health is poor, then your body's not going to get the nutrition it needs. It's not going to recover well. Therefore, it's going to be under stress. Okay. So what can we do to avoid nutritional deficiency and reduce inflammation and improve our gut health? Well, there's a few things. Of course, eating good foods, okay, and avoiding the foods that are causing us problems, okay? For example, we talked about gluten and food intolerances before. But if you have an intolerance to gluten and you're having toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, and chips for afternoon, pasta for dinner, then you're going to be causing your gut real problems over time, okay? So what can we do? Eat the right foods. Make sure we're eating lots of good quality veggies. Our gut loves fiber, okay? Also for our gut, there are things called probiotics that you can eat after a meal. And that's basically good bacteria to help heal our gut. And there are things called prebiotics, which are the things that the good bacteria feed on to be healthy, okay? So what I like to do is every quarter or so, I'll spend a week or two of taking prebiotics and probiotics. Okay, it's not something that you need to do every day for the rest of your life, but you do need to top up from time to time to make sure that you're on top of it okay? Saves you going into the doctors and getting expensive tests and things like that if you just have a routine of doing that. And you can get all that kind of stuff from a typical chemist, or certainly online these days. Okay. Other good things for our for inflammation: fish oil. Okay, fish oil is like a supplement that literally every single person should be taking for optimal health. Okay, so to be optimal, we need to have a ratio in our diet of between omega-6 fats and omega-3 fats. Okay, so a lot of people think that they're both good for us. Okay, and they are, as long as they're in proportion. Ideally, we want to have one omega-3 to one omega-6 in our diet as a ratio. Now, the average modern day person has one omega-3 or 1 gram of omega-3 to 16 grams of omega-6. And that is one of the major causes of inflammation. And omega-6 are found in grains and seeds and things like that. So in other words, we eat way too much of that kind of stuff and way not enough of omega-3. And if you study the research of when human beings' brains developed the most, and we actually became human beings, became really smart people, it's when omega-3 consumption increased. Okay, and human beings way back in the day, when we were eating, basically animals with the nuts and other things, we're getting between 40 and 50 grams of omega-3 a day. And these days, that's nowhere near the case. Does that make sense? So a good quality omega-3 supplement is very important. Quality is the key point with that, because like anything, you get what you pay for. If you get the cheap one from the supermarket, you're likely getting a very poor product that's not doing a lot for you at all. In fact, it sometimes can be doing you harm. Okay. And another one for gut health is glutamine. So we'll talk a little bit later about post-workout nutrition in the Brilliant at the Basics section. But glutamine in your post-workout shake will help you recover faster, but it's also very good for your gut health. Guts love glutamine. Okay, and so it's a cheap supplement, and it's you really only need to be taking it with your post-workout shake. You don't have to take it all the time. However, if you do have inflammation like sore joints, take that before bed each night with some quality fish oil, and you will notice your joint pain will reduce. Okay, because it's going to help you reduce the inflammation. Environmental: if you live in Mumbai or Delhi or Pune or any city basically that has a lot of pollution, your body is getting stressed just from the air that you're breathing every day. Okay, so you need to be mindful of that. It's definitely worth getting your air conditioner cleaned, regularly. If you're living in Australia, but you've got the aircon going all the time and it's never cleaned, and you're inhaling moldy air every day because there's mold inside your air conditioner, that's going to be very harmful to you. If you're always cleaning with like strong chemicals, bleach and that kind of thing, and always breathing it in, that's going to be harmful to you. So make sure the aircon in your car gets, when you get your car serviced, make sure they can clean that out for you, so you're not breathing in dirty air all the time. Very important. People. Who would have thought people might stress you out? But if there's someone in your life that always stresses you out, maybe it's time not to have them in your life anymore. Unless they're your kids, okay? Then you're going to deal with it. But maybe there's certain things you can do. And if we're living above the line, instead of saying, there's nothing I can do about it, what can I do to improve this situation so that I'm not always stressed? Okay. And there's one other one that I would, before I forget, is what do you put into your brain? Input equals output. So if you want to have good output, you need to have good input. In other words, if you wake up every day and listen to the news, are you going to feel great or are you going to feel stressed? Your 2 million-year-old brain's going to kick in and the end of the world's coming, right? Our brains are basically designed to detect danger. Our brains are designed to keep us alive, not to make us lean and happy, right? They're designed to keep us alive. So they're attracted to negativity. That's why the news is always negative, because they know people are going to get sucked in and watch it, because our brains are wired to negativity. So if you want to be healthy and happy, right, instead of just surviving until you die, if you want to be healthy and happy, you need to retrain your brain. So that means instead of switching on the news in the morning, listening to that stuff, or instead of listening to the radio on your way to work, where nothing useful has been shared in a long time, listen to something that's going to help you. So you might listen to an audio book, all right, about something that's going to help you achieve your goals, right? Or nutrition, or fat loss, or becoming a better parent, or becoming a better coach or trainer, or whatever it is that you do as your occupation, okay? Good input equals good output. If you want to be stressed all the time, listen to negativity and you'll achieve your goal very quickly. Okay? All right, so now my question for you, team, is you're going to write down what is your number one and number two thing that you think are contributing the most stress into your life, into your body. So out of all those things, what is your number one and two? And you're going to write them down, and maybe you have a three as well, and you're going to put a big circle around them. Number one and number two. Okay, I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to figure that out. Okay. Oh, I was clicking buttons, sorry. Okay, and what is your action plan to improve that? Okay, that's the next question. So we're going to spend a good minute on this one. If you are stuck on what to do to improve one of these, then pop your hand up using the button, the hand button. Okay, but basically, what are the things that you've identified that you need to improve, and what's your action plan to improve them? What are you going to do? Okay, and if you're stuck, pop your hand up. Awesome. Okay, great. We have a hand up. Good stuff. Okay, let me click my button here. Lovey, what was your question? Sorry, Lovey, right?
Yeah, Lovey. I thought you was asking us to write down the stressor in the life, in our lives, and what is your procedure, or what is your way by which you're going to break free from it. I thought we had to be ready for such a statement. You had asked us to put down two answers to two questions. You had asked us.
What are your answers?
My stressor in life is I am fully depressed, and I go through a lot of loneliness, and I keep away from people. I like to either sleep or cry or while away my time. And I know time is precious, and I'm dragging myself to the grave. So the action plan for it is keep yourself busy, engage yourself, use all your leisure hours with fruitful people like you. I'm happy I met Sweta, ma'am. And I think this is the best way I can support myself, because I find myself the biggest stressor. You had mentioned so many points saying that other people, instead of finding other people as your stressor, if you find that you yourself are not sufficient or efficient to carry yourself in life, I feel blame it on yourself and take your thing above the line, that you have be responsible for yourself, be accountable, and move ahead with good advice from people like you who have seen life and experienced people suffering more. The rest of it is just adding on. Maybe it's like essentials that you can take and lead your life better. Thank you so much. I've been really benefited. I know I'll take my stride way and ahead from this. Very sure.
That's fantastic. So first of all, you're 100% accurate. You know, the first step is above the line, take ownership of it. And the second thing is, all right, what do we got to do? And from what I'm hearing, your stress is more mental. And you know,
Yes.
before we move on, I know we've got a few more things that we need to get through today, but I want to give you a couple of quick tips if that's okay. So the first thing is, you're spot on. Your environment and the people you hang out with will be the number one factor. Okay. If you want to continue to feel depressed, keep doing what you were doing before. All right. If you want to get out of that, you need to do the opposite, which is like you're doing, exercising, hanging out with the right people, listening to the right stuff, etc., etc. And so keep doing that. And the second thing is you get what you focus on. Okay, you get what you focus on. So if you're feeling depressed and you focus on how you're feeling right now, you're going to continue to get that. All right. If you focus on, and I know it's not always easy, but if you focus on what are you grateful for, what are you trying to achieve today, you know, who can you help today, basically you focus on something other than how you're feeling right now, you will actually feel better. Okay, I know that's very simplistic, but most things in life are, right? And we just have to implement. So I'd say you're on the right track. Fantastic to hear. Keep going. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, that's awesome. Okay, we're going to keep rocking, guys. We've got a few more things, and hopefully you've gotten a couple of good golden nuggets to take away so far. Now, we're going to go to brilliant at the basics, and this means that if you're here listening to this workshop on losing belly fat, right, then all those things were specific to reducing cortisol, which is going to help us burn more fat and burn more belly fat. But there's also some general principles of fat loss that we need to understand and that we sometimes need a reminder about, okay? The first one is exercise with purpose and intensity, all right? Some of you guys are very, very good at this, but over the years, what I've found is that the people who complain about not getting the results are usually, not always, but usually the people who don't do the work. Okay, so what I mean by exercise with purpose and intensity, if you sit back and watch a workout, like I get to the privilege of doing several times every day, is you'll see some people that when I say 3, 2, 1, and then I say go, they're into it and they're going. And then as I count down, they don't stop until it gets to 0. And then there's other people that when I say go, they finish drinking their water, they wipe themselves off, and then 10 seconds into the set, they start doing something half-heartedly. And then as I say 3, 2, they stop. We haven't got to 0 yet. Does this make sense? So there's a big difference, not in that one set, but when you do 30 sets in a workout and you do that 4 times a week, right, that ends up being a big difference. That's one little thing, okay? I'm not sure if we've got this point in here, but prioritize your workouts. Get there on time, okay? Especially you guys in India, you have an issue of being on time for things, I think, sometimes. Not all of you, but I think it's a cultural difference that we have. You know, you might notice at boot camp or even online, lots of people joining the workout after it's already started. Now, if you don't get a proper warm-up in, you're not going to be maximizing your workout, okay? Especially when it's a 45-minute workout and you take, you know, 15, 20 minutes into it by the time you're warm and optimal. Not to mention that you're running the risk of injuring yourself, which is the number one way to reduce your ability to achieve your goals, okay? So be on time, prioritize. The other thing, if you're not on time and prioritizing your workouts, what message is that sending to your brain about how important making this change or achieving this goal is? You're basically saying it's not very important. I prioritize other things, so it doesn't matter if I turn up late. Okay, but guaranteed, Steve Smith or Virat Kohli are not turning up late to training, and that's why they're top performers, right? Basic number 2, manage your insulin and cortisol. So when it comes to fat loss, there are 2 hormones that make the biggest difference, okay, that we have to manage. Cortisol, we've already spoken about. Insulin is the other one, okay? So we don't have a lot of time to spend on that today, but long story short, if you're trying to burn body fat, you need to reduce or keep your carbohydrate intake down, okay? Now, both the Western diet and the Indian diet are typically both really high in carbohydrates, and that's why, now, actually on that topic, the Indian diet's always been high in carbohydrates, right? And that's not necessarily the end of the world. But when you add to that, we don't move as much as we used to. Like we drive in cars and on bikes all the time instead of walking. We don't do manual labor anymore. I mean, most of you guys don't even do the cleaning around the house, right? You have someone else do that. We're not moving as much as we used to. And then you add things like convenience foods and soft drinks and all that kind of stuff. And then that's what causes all these problems, okay? And in Western society, right, food's moved away from quality and it's just into basically big business now, right? And it's much cheaper to produce a gram of carbohydrates than it is to produce a gram of protein. That's why it's on the shelves, not because it's good for you. So reduce carbohydrates, increase fish oil or increase omega-3 intake. That helps insulin sensitivity, and do high intensity training and resistance training. Okay, so that's basically just do our workouts, right? Do our workouts, minimize carbohydrate intake, especially sugar. That basically should be eliminated, right? And increase omega-3. That'll improve your insulin sensitivity, help you burn more fat. And we've already spoken about all the million things you can do to lower your cortisol levels. If you want to burn fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. What does that mean? So you need 2 things. You need the hormones correct, and you need to be in a calorie deficit. That means you need to burn more energy than you consume, okay? So if you eat all the right foods, but you eat twice as much as you should, you're going to gain weight, okay? Now, you're going to be much less likely to overeat if you eat the right foods, because your hunger hormones will be in balance. So it's much easier to get your hormones right first, eat the right foods, and then worry about how much should I be eating. That's less of an evil. Most people go straight to the quantity. I like to go the other way. Quality first, quantity second, because the quantity will also be in proportion to your training and the results. How do you know if you're in a calorie deficit? Basically, are you losing weight or not? Are you losing fat or not, more importantly? So weight's not a great goal, a great measure. That's why we use the in-body scans, okay? If you're one of our online clients, it is a good idea to every couple of months find somewhere local that does an in-body scan, a full body scan that gives you a report on how much muscle mass you have, how much body fat you have. Not the bathroom scale ones that do that, because they're not very accurate, okay? But we must be in a calorie deficit if you want to burn fat. Turn up on time. I did have that, yeah, turn up on time. To your workouts, to your meetings, your things like this, etc., etc. If you want to achieve a result, you've got to take it seriously. I'm probably preaching to the converted here, because you guys are the ones here on your weekend listening. But this goes for anything. If you want to achieve something, you've got to put time and dedicate to it. Right? You can't complain about your poor relationship with your spouse if you never talk to them, or if you never dedicate time to just them. You can't complain about your lack of results if you're unwilling to change things in your nutrition, or turn up to training on time. All right. Oh, okay. Post-workout nutrition. This is a really important one. So out of all the meals in the day, the one that you have straight after your workout will have the most impact on your results. All right. And for 99.9% of you guys, it's a very simple formula. Protein powder, whey protein. Okay, whey protein. Second thing you want to have in there is some salt, pink salt. Pink salt, literally it's going to grind it into your shaker. Okay, because if you're sweating a lot and you're drinking a lot of water throughout the day, which you all should be doing, then you're going to need more salt in your diet. If you're eating a lot of protein, you need more salt in your diet. Basic rule, salt every meal with pink salt and you'll be fine. Okay, and the third thing you're going to have in there is glutamine. Glutamine is good for your gut health, also good for reducing inflammation, which means less muscle soreness and faster recovery. And if you recover faster from your workouts, that means you can get a better workout in next time. All right. And that has a cumulative effect over time, similar to like a bank account accumulating interest, a little bit every day, more and more and more. Okay, that's all you need to do, and add some water in there, and so you can drink it. All right, salt, water, glutamine, protein powder. Next, drink enough water. That will depend on you, your environment, what you're doing all day, how hard you're working out, how much you're sweating, how big you are, etc. But for most people, at least 2.5 to 3 liters plus your workout. When I say plus your workout, that means if you're sweating a liter out in your workout, you need to add another liter to that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. On that topic, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here because I know it's already been longer than I thought we'd be, which happens every single time, mind you. But an intra-workout drink is also very beneficial, and that means what's called a BCAA, branch chain amino acid, okay, with some salt. And if you want bonus points, you can add a thing called carnitine, okay? It'll come as called L-carnitine when you search it. But basically, that helps our body burn more fat as well. And the BCAA improves our recovery, which again has a cumulative effect, okay? So what you do during your workout and after your workout is very important. Now, if you're starting from day one, right, you don't have to do all of these things. Like I said, not one of these things is going to change your entire life. It's a stacking effect, okay? It's a multiplication effect, all right? When you do multiple of these things all together, you will improve, out of sight, okay? And anyone you see that's in incredible, great shape pretty much does all of these things, if not most of these things. Okay. So the question is, what basics do you need to improve? What 1 or 2 basics do you need to do better to take your results to the next level? And your result might be a physical result. It might be how you feel. It might be a strength or a fitness goal. Or it might be that body fat percentage or that belly fat in particular. Okay, so what basics do you need to improve? And while you're writing that down, I'll simply just open up the floor to anyone who has a question, okay? So any question, whether it's to do with this or something else with your fitness or health, feel free to ask that now, and I'll just stick around and answer the questions. If anyone has to run away, we're right on the hour now. You're welcome to leave us. Or you're welcome to stay and listen to some questions. And if you do have a question, guys, simply click that little hand button, pop your hand up, and I'll just scroll through here and answer them. Okay, cool. All right, I'm just checking for hands. All right, Phil's got a hand up. I'm going to unmute you here, Phil. You're on.
2 things, Jake. What was that thing you just said? BC what?
BCAA. Branch chain amino acid.
BCAA. Where do you get that from?
You get that from us. We have that at the gym.
Oh, do we?
Yep. Yep. And I've got one left on the shelf with your name on it.
Well, save it for me. There's my name on it. Yep. And second question, we talked about coffee in the morning. Decaf's okay?
Yeah, 100%. So the decaf is not going to have the same cortisol effect. Yeah. So decaf you can virtually drink as long as it's a good quality decaf, assuming it's not full of, crap. Then you can essentially drink that, as much as you want. I typically have, that's correct. Yeah. I have 2 normal coffees a day, one with brekkie and one with lunch. And then I'll have, typically another 2 or so decafs a day. No drama with decafs if you just like the flavor. Yep.
I've changed completely to decaf.
Oh, you're 100% decaf now. Yeah. Well, that's even better because your cortisol is going to drop right. That's optimal. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Great question. So remember, guys, if you have a question, just click the little hand button, which shows me. Okay. I'm going to put you down. All right. And Lovi, over to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My question is, you had explained more than 10 points relating to the stressors that are responsible for poor health, and out of which nutritional deficiency was the 7th point discussed. You said when there is a improper intake, that leads to chronic inflammation. On this, you did explain the importance of omega-3. I would like to know what proportion of omega-3 should be taken. You said something about, I couldn't follow you, 1:3, something like that. So 1:6, something you said, I couldn't catch up with that. Please help me.
Yeah. Okay, got you. Okay, so basically there's a few different protocols you could follow. There's an extreme protocol, which most people don't follow, so I won't give you that one. But I'll give you a few tips on omega-3. What I would be doing if I were you and just looking at you, and when I say looking at you, I'm just making some guesstimates around body fat percentage, etc., because that affects how much I would recommend. But I would suggest that you take 4 grams of fish oil, which typically will be 4 tablets, okay, with each meal. That means 3 times a day, which equals 12 grams a day, which is quite a lot. So what you need to make sure that, and that's not forever, by the way, that's just until you get down to where your goal is. And then you drop down to typically 2 to 4 grams a day. Okay. And the reason you take it with each meal is that because it will actually reduce the insulin load that your body produces with that meal. Okay. So in other words, your body will produce less insulin, which means you burn more fat. Okay. Now, this can get more complex if you want even to make it better. What you would do is with that 4 grams of omega-3, you would take 1 gram of carnitine. Now, carnitine has a multiplication effect on fish oil. It basically helps our body use fat for energy. Okay, and fish oil is fat. Okay, so again, it can get quite complex, but that's as simple as I can say. 1 gram, typically it's 1 gram to every 3 grams of fish oil. So if you're taking 3 or 4 grams of fish oil in a meal, you'll take 1 gram of carnitine. And usually carnitine comes in a powder form. So you put a little scoop into water, shake it up, and then drink it with your fish oil at the end of the meal, or just before the meal actually is better. Does that make sense?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And so that will help reduce insulin, but also reduce inflammation by getting more omega-3 into your body, which will have a double whammy effect. Now, the problem that some people face when they are taking high volumes of fish oil like that is you need to make sure it's a good one. Because if you've got a bad fish oil, a cheap one that's maybe got mercury in it or something like that because it's been made very poorly and that's why it costs very cheap, then you can actually be doing more harm to your body by consuming it. And obviously, the more you have of something that's bad, the worse it's going to be. So make sure you get a good quality fish oil from a reputable supplier. So you guys in Oz, I would be getting them. We have our links to the website that we use, Mac Fitness, all right? Anything that they stock is going to be good. If you go to the chemist, you're going to get the lower quality stuff because that's a discount kind of chemist or supermarket. Is not the place to buy supplements from. You're going to get very low quality. And I just wouldn't trust it. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Great question. Okay, let's see if there's any more hands up. All right, all right. Can't see any more hands, guys. So what that means, let me just check one more time. No more hands up. Okay, so what that means is my turn to say thank you. Oh, Ravi's raised his hand. Hang on. We've got a question now. Oh, Rakesh has got a question. Okay, Rakesh. Let's swing over to you. Yep. Oh.
Yeah. Few of the clients, they have, posted their questions in the chat box. So if you check
cool.
the chat box. Yeah.
Ah, my mistake. All right, let me check the chat. Oh, there's lots in the chat box. Okay, can we have black tea without sugar? Absolutely. But just remember, Swapnali, with that, same as coffee, you just got to be mindful of the caffeine. So you can't just have an unlimited amount. Check the caffeine content in it. If it's similar to a coffee, then you got to take that into account. And same rule applies, not on an empty stomach. Okay, not on an empty stomach. Okay, Ravi says 1 spoon of sugar with tea a day. Is it okay, or should we cut down? Well, it depends. Do you want to achieve better results, or are you happy with the results you're getting? Because if you're happy with the results you're getting, that's fine. If you want better results, cut it out, because 1 a day doesn't sound like a lot, but in a decade, that's 3,650 teaspoons of sugar. Will 3,650 teaspoons of sugar make a difference? Yes. 1 teaspoon won't make a big difference, but that many will, right? Over a decade, it'll make a huge difference to your health. Yeah. Okay, Ruchi says, please share some link to get carnitine available in India. Great. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I will get on Amazon India and I'll find some links for you for some good quality products that are good price as well, because I know it's a balancing act between quality and price. And I'll post those links into the group for you. You Aussie guys, we already have those links. So if you want them, just sing out, okay? And that just takes the guesswork out of it for you. You don't have to think, is this good or not? Just like buy this one and it's good. That's easier. Okay, some more questions actually up here. What's the difference between losing fat and losing weight? Losing weight means you're losing kilograms on the scale. Losing fat means you're losing body fat. So what we actually want is we want to have high muscle mass and low body fat. That equals better health, okay? Means better longevity, better health, more resilient health as well. In other words, if you have more muscle mass and then you mess up and or not mess up, but let's say you have a big party on the weekend and you eat lots of your favorite foods, you have your gulab jamun and your ice cream and all of that stuff, then you're not going to have as detrimental an effect if you have more muscle mass, okay? Because your body is going to be much more insulin sensitive, all right? And basically just healthier. A lot of people are skinny fat. In other words, they're not necessarily fat, but they have very low muscle tone, and their body fat percentage is actually quite high. So you can be skinny and still very unhealthy. Suhata says, how to improve stamina? keep training, be consistent. Okay, so brilliant at the basics. Turn up to training every day, train hard, do the right things, and then recover well, eat well, so you can repeat the process tomorrow, the next day, etc. And over time, you will become surprisingly fit. Most people overestimate what they can do in a short space of time and underestimate what they can do in a long time. So most people say, I want to lose 20 kilos in the next 6 weeks, right? Probably not going to happen, but it can definitely happen over 6 months to 12 months, right? And 12 months from now, if you train 4 or 5 times per week with good intensity and good intention and the right programming like we give you, you're going to become incredibly fit in 12 months, okay? In 6 weeks, you're going to make drastic improvements, but you're not going to be competing at the Olympics, okay? So just understand that. You've got to be consistent over time. Powerful exercises for belly fat. There is no such thing as an exercise that will burn fat from your belly exclusively. We need to be doing the large muscle groups. So you want to lose body fat, you're much better actually working the legs, squats, lunges, deadlifts, swings, things like that, that use a lot of muscles, which means a lot of energy, because body fat is just stored energy, okay? So if you have lots of body fat, that just means you're a very energetic person, okay? You have lots of energy there, ready to be used, all right? So we need to use the muscles that require lots of energy to burn that body fat. So doing sit-ups all day is not going to help you burn body fat from your tummy. It's only going to burn a little bit of body fat compared to doing squats or burpees or things like that, push-ups, etc. Big muscle groups we want to work. That's why we do those exercises a lot. And now, okay, so if you're postpartum, then core strength is very important. Probably a topic for another day. Side planks, once you can do them very well, you can move on to a front plank. But and the other one is going to be working your glute med. So things like glute bridges with pushing your knees out. Okay, even better if you do that with a band, a resistance band, so you can work on your hip stability, because your hip stability is very important, so you don't get a sore back when you're doing all the other exercises if you've just had a baby. Okay, team. Oh, we got other questions. First session for Ravi today. That's awesome. Great. All right. Does protein have excess sugar? Don't get protein that is high in sugar. If you get a good quality protein, no, it'll be very low in sugar. Okay. Okay, guys. Perfect. Ravi, I can't stay on after the session. I've got things to do. I've got to get going. But feel free to reach out to your coach if they're the person who got you started, and they'll be able to help you for sure. Team, I've got to move now. I've got to rock and roll, but thanks so much for your time today. Have a great one. If there's any more questions, feel free to shoot them in a message or on Facebook or whatever, and we'll shoot another video later. We're going to do one of these workshops every single month on a different topic. So if there's another topic that you want to delve into, feel free to let us know, and we'll put it on the list of things. All right. Perfect, guys. Oh, and by the way, make sure you take action. All this is a waste of time if you don't do anything different. Okay, so from here, go and take some action and make the changes that are going to help you. And yeah, I hope you got something out of it. All right. Bye.